Microsoft PowerPoint 2007, formatting slides, animations, and transitions. I know, a lot of the CBT nuggets up until now were all about the basics, and now you're getting to what you think is the good stuff. You want to see those animations. By the end of this CBT nugget, if you've always wondered how your friends and coworkers made their slides look so cool, you're going to know. There are two things that we're going to look at in this CBT nugget. Animations, which deal with things that are on a slide. And then transitions. What happens between the slides? In other words, does it fade in? Does it fade out? Does it spin around? What do you want to do with it? Now, before we get too far into this CBT nugget, I want to give you a warning. A lot of times people, once they find out about slide transitions and animations, they go hog wild. I mean, it's what I call animation overkill, where you'll see a presentation where every single bullet point does something different coming in. Every single element on the thing just boom, it explodes, and then the slide flips in and then it flips out. And you're just like going, your eyes start getting, they start hurting from all the stuff that's happening on the screen. So, just understand that when you are looking at a PowerPoint presentation, sometimes less is more. Now, I'm not going to say don't use them at all. Absolutely. I mean, they add a lot to a presentation, and they can really make a powerful point. But you don't want the animations and the transitions to distract from the message or the thing that you are trying to talk about, because you can be totally in awe of all the stuff that's happening on the screen. Meanwhile, you missed what the instructor or the presenter said, and that's really where you should be paying attention. Remember, PowerPoint is to help you with your presentation. It is not to dominate your presentation. That's just the way it is. It always will be, because people will either ignore you and look at everything on the screen, or if it's just so boring, they won't listen to you anyway. So that's why it's important to do real good. Okay, I'll put my soapbox away here, and let's take a look at what we can do. Now, remember what I said. Two things that we can do. We can do animations, which are things that happen on the screen, and then we can do transitions, which is things that happen between your slides. So from one slide to the next, you can do a transition. Where's all this? I wonder. Yep, over here on our animations. So if you click on animations, you can see that we have the custom animations, we have the transition schemes. So these are the two things. Let's start off with the animations themselves. Now, what you can do is you can select certain elements on the screen, and then you can use the pre-built-in animations that are there, or you can create a custom animation. Now, under the pre-built-in, you're going to get some standard animations, and we got some good ones. You can do no animation. You can do fade in, where it'll fade in. And notice we've got the auto preview on, so you can see how that works. You can wipe it in. You can fly it in, so you can bounce in there. Or you can do what we call a custom animation, which we'll show you right there. Now notice, when I did the fade in, only the element that I've selected is going to do the custom animation. So if I select off of here, notice I've only selected the title. If I hit Control and I pick, both elements here, and or you can just take it and highlight both elements right here. Now, if I use the fade, watch, both elements are going to fade in. So you can pick and choose which elements you want to apply these animations on, the wipes, the fly-ins, whatever it is that you want to be able to do. So that's a kind of a good example of just how that might work on this page. But let's go on down and let's pick something that a lot of times people will use them on is things where you have pictures. Now, we've already seen that you have sounds and things, and we've embedded the sounds. Believe it or not, you can actually add sounds as you transition between your slides, which we'll see in a minute. So now I've got elements on here that I can choose. I can choose the pictures and choose an animation, but here's the custom animation. So let's say I've got this little thought bubble here with Antonio Stradivari, and let's say I want to do something with the thought bubble. So I go ahead and select on it. And then I come over here to custom animation. Now, when I click on custom animation, it opens up the task pane over here that allows me to do stuff to my particular slide. In this case, you'll notice that I already have the two sound elements placed into effect. And you can see they're right here. And it shows you, look at that. It says on click, if you click on it, it will play. Now, what I want to do is right now, there is no effect on my little thought bubble. I can go ahead and say, well, I want to add maybe an entrance, or maybe I want something that does an emphasis. For example, I can go in and say, ooh, I would like to see what happens if it grows and shrinks Ooh, that's pretty cool. The cloud just kind of goes whoop. And if, by the way, if you miss it, notice I have the auto preview on here. If I missed it and I want to see it again, you just simply click play, and it will then show you that particular element. Now notice it says it has the down arrow. When you click on the down arrow, here's where you make some of the choices. Do you want it to start on the click? Do you want it to start with the previous? Do you want to start it after the previous animation? The effect options themselves, timing, you can do timing, and you can even show an advanced timeline. The advanced timeline literally shows you all the different elements down here, and you can see it in seconds, and you can zoom in to 1 second or 2 second, and you can see it up here. You know, so it's really neat. So that way when you hit play, watch this. It shows you the timeline of how these things happen. So that's some pretty cool stuff. So if you choose that, you can click the effect options. Remember, with the effect, you can do a smooth start, auto reverse, where it'll start. How big do you want it to grow? Well, you know, I want it smaller. You know, a little smaller. I only want it to grow 50%. You can do auto reverse, smooth out the start or the end. You can add sound to a particular custom animation. So if I wanted to, when it grew, I could use maybe a sound here, and you can choose these sounds that are in your sound folders in your Microsoft Office. So if you want to set up your own. Now I'll go ahead and say I'm going to add a drum roll, and then if you want to hear it, you just click on this, and it will then play it back. Now you can't hear it right now because obviously I'm recording through my headphones and you're not able to see that. And so you can set the the volume on it, and it'll play it or mute it. You can do some things like that. After the animation, do you don't dim it? Do you want to animate the text all at once? These are just options and enhancements you can do. You can set up the timing, which you can see here. They give you medium. Well, here on timing, you can set it up again with the speed, the delay before it starts. Do you want to rewind it so you can do it over again? The different triggers, part of a click sequence. Started on the click of something else. If I clicked over here on the clarinet and not that and made it go, so you have so many different options here in your custom animations. And what I'm going to suggest to you is, again, kind of like with backgrounds and colors and pictures, which we talked about in a previous CBT Nugget, play around with it. See what works. But again, remember that rule that I said. Don't just throw things in just to throw animations in. Instead, make sure that it makes sense and it's a part of your message. So you can just click those. Text animation, group the text as one object. You can then say, well, no, I want the paragraphs all at once. Do you want first, second level paragraphs so you can have things do different, particular custom animations? These are all things that you can do. So we'll go ahead, the effect. We did it 50%. We go OK. And now, I don't know if you heard it in the background, it went down to 50%. I wanted to make it a little smaller. So let me put my headphones up here close to the speaker, and we'll play it one more time, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound in the background. So there you go. And we'll watch that animation. So that is the first animation. Now, what if I want to add something to this particular thing? Now, notice that did it. Maybe I want it to fade in first. Well, what do you need to do? Well, you can go ahead and you can add another effect. In this case, we'll say an entrance, or you can do an exit or a motion path. We'll go ahead and say we want to do some more effects here. And I like the fade. You can do the faded zoom, or you can do, of course, I'm kind of in the way here so you can't see it. You can do a fade in where it fades in. You can do the faded zoom where it zooms up like that. So, or a faded swivel. That's kind of fun. We can do that. And then it, does it with the other elements. Remember how we said each one of those elements can actually do something different. By the way, notice that you have basic on here, as well as subtle, moderate, and then even exciting. They got some really nifty little things, and we'll show you some of those. Well, we'll stick with the subtle. We're going to have it do a faded swivel, and then we're going to have it do the other one. Well, how do I do that? We go ahead and we click OK. Now watch, though. Wait a minute. It does the shrink grow first, and then it does the fade in. Well, that's not how I want it. Well, what do I need to do? Select this, and I can click and drag it and move it. Notice that? And I moved it like that. Or, I'll move it back here. I can use the reorder down here. I can move what was number 2 up to number 1. And now, when I hit play, you'll notice it comes in, it fades. It's going to run in and add the I Love Music, instruments, And then, it's running through, and notice it, on the timeline it tells you how long this is. And there goes the fade on the thing. So you can see how now you've added this, and it starts, again, on click. Now on this one, you can say, well, I want to do it with the previous, so it's doing it at the same time, or after the previous animation element. So you can choose when things start, when they stop, and exactly how you are going to activate that particular animation. So we can go ahead and do that. Now notice I did it right here. This is the preview. Now when you do a slideshow, what it'll do is it'll start the slideshow from this slide, and it'll open it up big on your screen, and you can see it in all of its full glory, like it would actually look on your screen. And we'll kind of show some of that when we get into the CBT nugget on setting up your show. So this is just how we do animations. Now remember, animations deal with what? The elements on the screen. So if I want to add something out to the tuba, I can add an effect. Let's go down to some of these, like a motion path, or you can do more effects. Let's do a motion path. Motion paths are kind of fun. We can do a custom path or more motion paths. I'll do more, and you can come in here and say, well, hey, I want to do a football where it goes around, and notice it kind of goes around like that. You can do an arc down. You can do all kinds of different types of motion. And what that means is it literally travels across. You can do a heartbeat. That's kind of funny. Looks like an EKG monitor, or you can do a funnel like a tornado. It just goes down the funnel. There's so many different animations. A lot more, by the way, than what you used to have in the previous versions of PowerPoint, like PowerPoint 2003. I mean, inverted squares, peanuts, vertical figure eights, and neutrons. I mean, some of these you didn't have. Swooshes, where they swoosh around. And if you wanted to, remember on some of these motion paths, if I cancel out here and add the effect, motion path, you can draw a custom path. You can go ahead and draw whatever one you want. You can say, well, I want it to go here, then here, then here, then here, then here, and here, and here, all over the place. And then, of course, if you want to do different emphasis, I can do more effects. And again, here's where you can go moderate all the way up to, you can make it blast. And so now it's going to blast up like that. So, kind of fun. Or you can make it blink. That's something that kind of is annoying, and it, kind of distracts if you want to do bowl reveal, waves, flickers, teeters, where it kind of teeters back and forth. Now, these are different emphasis effects. Cancel this. You can also do entrance ones. You can do more effects here, and here's where you can do some of the, kind of fun, like do a pinwheel, where it'll just kind of pinwheel in like that. So again, remember, if you have all these different effects going on the screen, you can see how quickly that this screen could get really busy really quickly. So these are just the animations, and these are things, again, that are elements that happen on the screen. Now, what about moving between the slides? Because obviously this all happens while the slide is happening, but let's say I want to transition between slides. Well, let me go ahead and close my task pane here. And let's move over, and we're going to move on up here to the title, and we want to transition between the slides, have it come in and move out. This is all done over here under the transition to this slide. Now the transition, notice, to this slide, how it moves from this slide, or how it brings this slide in. If you want to transition to this slide, you move to the next slide, just so you can see. Now right here, you have a couple of schemes. All the kinds of effects you have. You have the fade through black. You have fade through right here, which is a cut. And then you have the different types of cut through black instead of fading. You have fade, where it just fades in. You have checkerboard, or dissolve, like they like to say. And you have, different kind of pinwheels and things you can do. And you can kind of see it happening there in the background. So if you ever want to do that. Or if let's say I wanted to select that one and I want to preview it again, I just simply click preview and it'll show me here on the screen. How fast do you want that? Well, that's easy. You can go down here and say, well, that was kind of fast. I want to do a medium. Or I can even go down and click on it and do a slow. Notice this only applies to the slide I've selected. And we know this by the little animation that we see right here. See, it says play animations right there. If you click on it, it'll play the animations for that particular slide. Notice we don't have any more animation. So if I click after this, let's say the slide has come in, it comes in, doo-doo-doo-doo, and then I want to go to the next slide, guess what happens? Boom, it just shows up exactly like that. Just goes straight to it. So what we want to do is then, of course, apply, if you want that particular transition, which is on here right now. We have the animation. It's we want to add the one that's selected here is the pinwheel or wheel clockwise. Okay, so we have that on here. If I want to apply that to all of the slides, I just simply click Apply to All, and that'll be like it. Now, do you want to do that? Well, sometimes people say consistency is much better. I mean, it works much better for people, because then people can say, all right, it's the same. It fades in, it fades out, fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out. What I do not recommend is adding a different transition for every single slide. You do a pinwheel here, fade here, checkerboard here, dissolve here. That gets to be a little annoying after a while. But personally, some people like that. Okay, maybe if you're doing like a high school pep rally, where you're just doing all this stuff. Well, hey, you know what? Throw every single animation under the sun on the slide, and then make sure each transition is different. I mean, the high school will be like, wow, look at all that cool stuff that I get to do. So we can see that we can do that. We can also add a sound. If I want, I can go ahead and choose a slide. And right now in the background, you might be able to hear it. You can hear a coin, a click, a chime, maybe a bomb, some applause, and you can preview this. You can also loop it until the next sound. So if you had another sound, and when you click on other sound, it of course brings up the dialog box, and any type of sound files, MP3, Windows Media files, things like that, are able to be inserted here. What will happen is, let's say you have a little sound, little clip, a little logo sound, do 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 do, and you want that to kind of just keep playing for a little bit on the slide. Well, you can loop it. So it just keeps do 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 and plays again and again and again. So this is just an option if you want in the background. Of course, remember, sound is going to come out while you're talking over the presentation. Where does this become better? Well, maybe you want to do a slide where you're not talking and you haven't added narration, but you want just a sound to kind of play in the background. Well, you can add the sound here. We'll talk about that when we talk about narration and setting up your show for that. So that's in another CBT Nugget. Notice that, again, you can advance the slide on mouse click, which a lot of people like. You can control, but sometimes you might be in a realm where you might say, you know what, I've only got 30 minutes for my presentation. I need my slides to be about a minute and a half apiece to make sure I get it all done. I can set up the timing on here so that the slide advances after 30 seconds or after a minute. Or after a minute and 30 seconds. So I know that I'm on time. Now this, we'll talk about on good presentation skills in the CBT Nugget on that, is that means that the slides drive you. They're driving the presentation. You're just keeping up. Not too many people like that, because that means there's no time for any change in the presentation, no question and answer or anything like that. However, sometimes it's necessary, and you might want to have that kind of as a buffer for you. Or you can just say, no timings. Whenever I click, that's when it transitions to the next slide. So if I wanted to, I could say, well, then on to this next slide. There's no transition scheme right now. You can tell because there's no little star there. We'll go ahead and do a dissolve. So now we have the dissolve. And now when you go here, you preview. That's the pinwheel. Over here, if you preview it, it's going to show you the dissolve. And so now this will only happen on the mouse click. So if I'm here, to get this transition to fire off, I need to click on the slide. That's all that means. Very simple, very straightforward, and I know that you folks are going to have a great time practicing with these presentation skills and with these animations and transitions. But again, my warning, be careful how many of these you put on each one of your slides and the transitions that you use, because they can tend to be a distraction. But they're there, use them, and have some fun. You probably aren't even going to listen to this final little wrap-up because you're already on your way to start playing around with the animations and transitions. So, hey, have fun. But don't forget, animations are going to be those things that you use on objects that are contained on the slide and, movement there. And then transitions are movement between the slides. In other words, one slide going to another. One thing you do want to remember, and that's why you need to listen to all of the CBT Nugget, is that whenever you do a transition, the transition will happen first, and then the animations that are contained on the slide will then fire off. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.